This should result in three thinking. First of all, culture and identity do not explain anything, whether politically, or economically, or in any other term. Today, we talk a lot about so-called Asian values and Confucius to explain, with many, many, many quotes, to explain the so-called tigers or dragons, as the Asian countries are currently being qualified. But Neo-Confucianism was used by some famous colleagues to explain the neo-Stalinian China of the 1950s, the Great Leap Forward, the China of the Deng Xiaoping reform as from 1978. So one concept to explain so many different situations raises a problem, I think. And this concept of Neo-Confucianism is also allegedly reporting what People's Republic of China is today. But when you look at Hong Kong, you realize that there are a few problems there. And Taiwan, where the political and economic regime is completely different. And even Taiwan has changed from authoritarianism, that of Kuomintang, to multi-party type of democracy. When you talk about Korea, you find it hard to understand how this culture can explain the situation in North Korea and South Korea. When it comes to Buddhism in Thailand and Myanmar, because Buddhism is a majority religion in these two countries, you find it hard to understand how these two countries have taken so different political courses from the political and economic standpoint. Regarding Islam, I have another piece of news for you, which might be pleasing to some people. Islam does not exist. When you talk about so-called Muslim countries, some of them are caught in conflicts. And these are conflicts between Muslim people, and I've worked a lot on so-called Muslim societies. I never met what is called Islam. I met Muslim people, many, and they disagree with one another. The concept of Islam does not account for the political situation in Algeria, for instance. And the political conflict is true for the majority of a Muslim population, which is also under the rule of the army. And you see that there are great divides in some countries with conflicts with the military, or political and electoral conflicts as well. Some have even said that there is a correlation between Islam and violence. In Oklahoma City, in the 1990s, there was an example of terrorism attack, which was plotted by a Christian white supremacist. There was a similar massacre in Norway, and Pope Francis even said, if we talk about Islamic violence, we should talk about Catholic violence, because Islamic violence doesn't mean anything. A lot is being said in the French society about the fact that Islam is a religion that is hostile to women. And in a Christian country, Catholic religion, it is well known that there are no feminicide, there is no domestic violence, just like in Spain, and that it is the privilege of Muslim people who are the only ones beating their wives because it's part of their culture. And just like the Chinese love torture, because Chinese torture is part of their culture. Me Too is only for Muslims, and pedophilia is only true for Islamic societies and does not exist in the Catholic Church. So this concept of culture is meaningless to account for political, economic, and sexual phenomena that are at the very heart of our day-to-day news. I'm French. I have French cultural traits like drinking a lot of red wine and eating a lot of bread and baguettes, but I'm not sure that I have the same political culture as Mrs. Le Pen or Mr. Sarkozy, for the same reason, who claims he's of French identity. I don't think that I have the same identity as these political figures. There are very different ways of being French. You can even be French and vegan. So culture and identity will not explain anything politically, while we know that this is something that is constantly highlighted in the political debate.